Hello, and welcome back to The Sim. In this one, we're here on the ground in Ottawa, and we're jumping back in to the HJet. With this one, we're looking at how do you fly a VOR circling to land approach. So we're going to use one of the ones we've got very close. So we'll be taking off from here at CYOW and headed over to CYRP. So let's jump inside and get started. So when we bring in the chart, we're looking at our flight plan. This is a really basic flight plan because CYRP is right there. So CYRP, great area that we use a lot for training when we take off from CYOW because it has a bunch of different approaches. One of them is the VOR Alpha, and that is a circle to land. So it's a VOR DME Alpha. There is a GPS overlay, but we're not even going to load it. We're going to fly it strictly off of the VOR data. Basically, what we're going to be doing is headed out from Ottawa. We're on the Ottawa 4 departure, which is a climb runway heading up to 5,000 feet or as assigned. Now, generally, if we're doing this type of approach, because of terminal and everything else, they're actually going to send us to 4,000. So we're going to go ahead and we'll get 4,000 dialed up. And so we'll have a little bit of an amendment to our SID there. Going from there, when we look at the chart, what we're going to see with the chart is this is a VOR DME approach. So your waypoints are based on distance measuring equipment. You are allowed to substitute on this approach using a GPS in this instance. So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to fly out. So 320 actually from here is a straight shot directly out to the VOR. And so what's really nice is we're going to use one of our PFD settings, which is to bring in our bearing pointer, so nav1, and as you can see there's currently no data, and simply that's because we just need to go ahead and put the VOR 1146 and we'll transfer that. YOW is idented, and when we look back we now see that we are 12.8 nautical miles from YOW, and you can see the bearing pointer has us taking us straight out runway. So this is going to be real easy. We're flying off directly to the VOR, and that's where we're going to use the radio nav tools as we close in and we cross over. We're going to switch into heading mode, and we're going to want to fly out. So when we look here, 51 degrees is the outbound with 231 on the inbound. So what you want to do when you're crossing the VOR is you want to turn to ride the fence, or basically do an intercept of 45 degrees, which is going to put us on a heading of 006 degrees. So we're going to fly magnetic 6-degree heading, and then as we get out, we will then go at a 51-degree heading. So we'll turn into it, we'll fly on the outbound, and then we'll do the turn inbound where we'll enable nav mode. And so that's really how we set things up. So on the way out, we're going to be flying in heading mode to the VOR, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and change into basically a course mode, where on the inbound we're going to have dialed up 231. We're going to fly heading 051. We're going to turn the heading bug in on about a 45-degree angle, and then when we see the HSI changing, we'll enable nav mode. And so then that's going to have us set up. But while we're getting set up, we're going to want to get ourselves down to an approach speed, get our flaps out, and get configured. Because what you're going to see is that on the inbound, you can come down as low as 18,000 to Kelra, which is 6 DME from the VOR. So even if we get slowed up to about 120 knots, configured, coming down 120 knots, that's still going to have us pretty quick there, flying at about a 3 to 4 degree pitch down attitude. So we can use VS or we can use pitch. Either one will work. We can use VS and we'll aim for the pitch that we want. But it's going to be about 1,500 feet per minute. And that has a chance of not even leveling off before Kelra. So if we're at Kelra or approaching it, we'll dial again down to our MDA. And so this is what's different about a LPV or a ILS. You don't have a minimum decision height, right? This is a minimum decision altitude. It's not a decision height. So here we can get down between Kelra and our missed approach point, which is a total of 2.8 nautical miles, as you can see at the bottom of the chart. We can get down to this 900 and fly it all the way to the point of 8.8, where if we have the runway and the airport in sight, then we can continue. Because again, this isn't taking us directly at a runway that we are going to be landing on. We want to be landing on runway 28, which means we're actually going to overfly the airport and perform a circling to land, where you have to keep the runway and the airport has to be in sight, in view. So it's a pretty tight circle that you have to make and then come in and land. And you're doing that at 900 feet. When you think about that, if you were coming in from here on a VFR day doing a VFR approach, you would be crossing over the airport at about 1,500 feet and joining the downwind around 1,500 feet. So it's a lot lower than what you would be used to on a normal VFR approach, but technically once you've gotten the runway in sight and you've gotten to this MDA of 900 feet, you are effectively now flying a circle to land, which is now you're in basically a VFR approach. We're going to do that. We're going to come around the lighting. So the missed approach is you would climb straight ahead to 3,000 feet. So at that 8.8, you would climb up to 3,000 and then you would make the turn back to the YOW VOR, where you would then go into the hold and figure out what your plan is and what you were going to do. So again, we want to be down to 120 knots because again, if we're over 120, but in the 140s, we are lucky we still have 900 feet, but you need 2 statute miles of viz, whereas you get 1.5 down here. So we definitely want to have as much visibility as we can. So if we can get ourselves down to 120, that's going to keep us in the Class B. If we were to go over 140, so if we were at the 160s, you're going to be needing a higher MDA. So we're going to get down here, and that's why we want to shoot for 120, and we want to be configured and ready to go before we hit the VOR, because we want to start the descent right at the VOR. That's what the plan is. We'll come back to this in a little bit, but I think you got the idea. So 114.6 is the Ottawa VOR, and our approach course is going to be 231, and we're going to follow that all the way in. So let's go ahead and get going. So one of the things that we said was we are not going to load anything in. We've already got ourselves set up. We've done our performance. We're all ready to go. We've got our flaps set. We've got our spoilers set. So those things are right. Our pitch trim is currently set. We did set our bearing, but we want to switch to the VOR. So we're going to go ahead and we can go and dial up that course if we wanted to. So again, the course is 231. And so we've got that set up because we are going to use the bearing pointer, which we see here. This is how we know we're going to be headed directly towards the VOR. This is always pointing at it. We know we're going to run this. So if we also sync our heading bug and go ahead and get our flight director on, but we synced our heading bug, so we're going to be flying in that 319, and we'll actually fly about 320, but we're going to fly to the VOR, and then, like we said, we're going to dial a heading of 006 to continue on. We did go into our utilities, and we did set up our barrel minimums. So again, as we saw, it was 900 feet, and we set that for barrel. So we get our barrel minimums of 900. That is also our minimum descent altitude. So we actually will get down to 900 feet and fly at 900 feet until we go final. So with that, we pretty much have ourselves set up to where we want to go. As mentioned, we're going to go up to 4,000. Now we could go up all the way to 5,000, but we'll stay with that. And we are 3002 for the altimeter currently. Now, as we normally do, we like to get our takeoff set. And because we are in the E2, if we wanted to, we could be in FMS mode. And of course, if we turn on our, get rid of our parking brake. And if we hit the auto throttle button right here, because we are in takeoff, it will now start the takeoff roll. So we have auto throttle set, takeoff and takeoff. And we're looking for VR and rotate and tap the brakes. Gears coming up, and we're through 130. Flaps are up, yaw damper is on, and autopilot is on, and we're going into heading mode, and we're going to go into flight level change, and we're actually going to let it climb. It's obviously going to climb pretty quick. So 4,000 feet, we're already in the clouds. So we intentionally set up weather so it would be just above minimums. That way we should be successful, but also give you that feeling of just how little room you have and how close you are to the ground as well once you come out basically 500 feet above the ground, doing a circle to land. And for something like this, I like to be around a 5-mile arc. So the range arc is at 5 miles. We can see where we're going to be in 60 seconds. So it's not even going to be a minute, and we're already going to get out there. So we're already at 250 knots, obviously below 210. But what we're going to do is we're going to go auto throttle into manual, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring that back to about 140. And here you can see with the heading, we're just going to give ourselves about a 322. Obviously there's some wind, so that can push us a little bit not too much wind, 11, 12 knots. Basically, we want to be flying towards the VOR, towards that 320, because we want to go over it as best we can. So, obviously, you could have also set up this. You could have set up 320 on the course, so we could have flown to 320 right on the 320 radial, so a straight shot. In which case, then gone into heading mode as we crossed over, and so 6-1, half dozen of the other. But you can choose how you'd want to do it. And it's important to note that you can still see here that we're 1.2, so you have that DME available to you. And so with that DME, we know that as we're approaching and that comes to 0, we're over top and we can start the turnout. It also doesn't have to be perfect. Again, the whole point of this is just to fly outbound, and you kind of want to go for basically about 45 seconds. So there's the flip, and so we're going to start our turn. And heading of 006. And we saw the clock just rolled over 1953. So we were looking at this. It was just a little bit before 1953. So we're going to watch that. And as we get close to 45 seconds, we can start the turn back in. So that keeps us on the protected side. You can also watch the DME because you're usually protected within X number of miles as well on the protected side. That said, here in Ottawa, we don't have anything higher, so we're well above your minimum safe altitude from the CYOW VOR is 2,900 feet. So there's 45 seconds, so we're going to go ahead and turn to 051. So that's going to ride the tail of our course needle, since it's the reciprocal of 231. So this is the part where I said we wanted to start getting configured. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get our first notch of flaps out. We're going to roll back that speed to 120 knots. And now we're going to also start our turn. So that we can intercept the course. So also with 120, we're going to go to full flaps. And now that we can see the needle coming in, so the deviation indicator is at 1 dot, we're going to go ahead and enable nav mode. Nav mode showing in green VOR. So now we're intercepting our VOR. And we're now headed in. So at this point, we're going to dial down to that 1,800 feet, since we are altitude captured at 4,000. So we're ready, and as you can see, we're about 3 miles out from the VOR. And so as we approach the VOR and we cross it, we're able to then start our descent down to 1,800 from the VOR. So I'm going to go to nope, performance. We're going to go to speed bugs. We're going to turn off our takeoff bugs. We're going to get our landing bugs. We're going to get them on. So V approach of 110, V ref of 105. That is good. And we're 2 miles out. So as we can see here, we are 2 miles out. We're in VOR. We are in altitude hold, waiting to start our descent. So, now, some people leave flaps. Some people actually only do approach flaps. They don't even have full landing flaps at this point, which probably isn't a bad thing. You probably would want to stay with takeoff approach flaps, just because you don't know that you're going to break out. And so, since it's a circle to land, we could get configured as we break out. So there goes the flip. So we're going to go into VS, and we're going to go ahead and dial in that 1,500 feet that we wanted. So we start down 1,500 feet, and we're looking, again, here we're looking for a DME of 6 miles, and that's the Kelra waypoint, which again is picked up via DME or a overlay if you flew the overlay. But we're looking for 6. So once we hit 6 nautical miles, we can then descend from 1,800 down to 900. So yeah, obviously, if you've got the ability to look at the chart, you can. But you can see here that we're on the way. We're looking to get down to 1,800 to Kelra, and then from there, we can descend further down to 900s, that minimum descent altitude, and then we'll circle to land to runway 28. And so there you go. We've now captured 1,800. So we're at 1,800. We are in the clouds. We're maintaining 120 knots. So we've given ourselves the approach plus 10. Obviously, we could slow it down further, but we'll do that in the downwind. And so we're 4.4 nautical miles. So at this point in preparation, because we are in altitude hold, we're going to set up for that 900 feet. One mile to go. So again, 5.2 nautical miles. We're looking for 6 nautical miles. So we're going to go into VS mode, and again we're going to descend at about 1,200 feet per minute. And what's great is you can see on inhibit TOS, inhibit, okay, inhibit. I guess that doesn't work. You could see where the banana is. It's ahead of the airport. So it is going to have us in at that 8.8 beforehand. And as you can see, as we come out of that 1,000, we do have the runway environment in sight. And now we're going to be performing that circle to land. So we're actually flying at this point. We're going to stay on the autopilot just to make it easier, but normally you'd just hand fly it. So there's runway 28. So to get there, we're going to sync our heading bug. We're going to go into heading mode, and we are going to basically fly for 28.
Minimums.
So you can hear that this whole time we're basically at minimums. So now we're going to go ahead, because you're supposed to keep the runway environment in sight. Obviously hard to do in Microsoft Flight Sim, but you get the picture. So we're going to turn in on the reciprocal.
Minimums. Minimums.
Keeping the airport in sight. So we want that. There's the airport. There's the runway. So we're doing good. So 100. We are in the downwind. So at this point, we're going to go ahead, get our landing gear down. We're going to bring it back to 110. And we're going to go full flaps.
1,000.
And we still have the runway environment in sight. And so let's go ahead. We're going to turn a very tight base and just keep the turn coming. Because again,
Minimums.
supposed to be looking out.
500.
There's the airport over there. Yeah, we would just keep the turn coming. So, flaps, gear, everything is good. So,
Autopilot.
autopilot's disengaged, auto throttle's disengaged.
Minimums. 500.
Pull up.
400.
Pull up.
300. 200. 100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5.
And get those. Oof. I should have been way closer to my pedals. Oops. There we go. Now I can actually step on the brakes. There you go. Safely down on the ground in CYRP. Not a problem on the VOR Circle to land. If you made it this far, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Come along in the next one. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.